So the real estate market's changed in California, just like it changed in Florida, Arizona, and Texas, but not to the same extent. But there's 653 short sales on the MLS. And I remember thinking back, a lot of people telling me that they knew what was going on, but they just didn't act, and there were reasons they didn't act. So what I'm saying in this video series that I'm starting right now, it's time to just get your principles in order, your goals in order, know the risks, make decisions, have no regrets. I'm not saying sell your property. I'm not saying I know the real estate market's going to collapse, but I'm going to point out some of the issues that came up back in 2008, 2009 in the beginning. And so many people said they knew, they just didn't want to act. So first of all, there's three postures people could be in. They could be upside down. And I started UpsideDownRealEstate.com in 2008. I've been blogging about it a little before that. And I learned about upside down when I first got out of law school and I was defending mortgage brokers. And there was a bankruptcy department. And they talked about upside down and sold out juniors and recourse loans. And when the market happened again, and I got smushed in Florida on 4 properties, I started blogging about it for California because Florida doesn't have anti-deficiency protections. So in this video, we're going to define upside down the way I think it should be. I know it's used interchangeably and impressed by everybody else, but if you cannot sell your property for more than you owe on the loans, or maybe technically more than you owe on all the liens if there's a tax lien, your property's upside down. Because in order to sell that property, you'd have to bring enough money to escrow to clear those liens at a bare minimum so you can transfer title free and clear. So upside down is when your property is worth less or you're actually in a sale and you don't have enough to remove all the liens. Easy. Now the next step is people whose property is worth more than the liens, or they're under contract for more than the liens, but they don't have enough money to pay all the expenses having to do with the sale. That's mostly real estate commissions. If you're in underwater because of real estate commissions, don't be. Try everything you can to avoid that scenario. I'm going to be talking about that in the next few videos about the idea of how you have to set up the contracts with your listing realtor, how you would counter buyer agent commissions properly on 2 separate contracts, because realtors are not able to do that. They don't have the forms. They're not even authorized to do it. We're going to be getting into how a low equity home seller or an underwater home seller by my definition can avoid being upside down at closing. Now, it might only be like 6 to 10% more, right? So on $1 million home, really only talking about like maybe $60,000 to $80,000 at max. But if 5 or 6% of those real estate commissions causing you to be upside down, we've got to prevent that from happening. If you don't even want to watch the rest of the video, just go to UpsideDownRealEstate.com and set up a consult. Or if you're watching this on, this is probably the easiest, you're watching this on Facebook, just comment call or strategy session, just type it in there and we'll call you. It's an easy phone call. I'll talk about what you should do to prevent yourself from going short. And it's pretty easy. Unfortunately, realtors don't have the forms to do it. At least all of them. They might have one related to how that you could get out at any time on your listing agreement, but the other ones they don't have are very important. And then the final position that someone could be in is significant equity. And for those, you have to make decisions quickly and sell fast. Because I'm going to explain what happens in the market. When you're in areas where short sales are appearing on the market, and we've already seen them, you can go on the CRMLS now, which is the largest one in the country. It covers San Diego, most of Southern California, and parts of Central, and even a little Northern. And if you go on there, you'll see some of those short sales are pre-approved or short sale approved. This is the price. Now, what happened there almost all the time is the realtor submitted an offer and the bank wanted more for the property. And so they're sitting here, and that's what the lender said they'd take 2 or 3 months ago, or when the offers came in. And what happens is other people see those prices. They're like, well, we're not going to make that price, but we want to sell. We don't want to go into a short sale. And they're like, I better do it soon. So they go and undercut the prices and they sell. That is the realtor strategy for everybody. Once they realize the market's getting softer going down, they're like, if you want to sell, you've got to be the best price on the market. So people make an offer on your home. That is why markets collapse. I know you go read all the Reddits, and if they even had Reddits back then, but you go read all the websites, people blame their realtors for dropping prices. In a way, it's true, but in a way, they're helping their seller. They're trying to get their seller out when the seller wants out, because listing above doesn't do you any good in a down market. Because in an up market, you can go for the max because the prices will eventually come up to you. They'll clear all the best, better priced homes, and they'll eventually get to yours in an up market. In a down market, they'll never get to your property. And then you'll readjust 2 or 3 months later, and you'll still try to get too much, it'll be too much, and you can just sit there and watch the whole market collapse. That's what you want to avoid if you are thinking of selling and you've got equity to protect. Now, if you've got equity to protect, one of the things that I remember the conversations, they were worried about taxes. So stop worrying about taxes and get properly informed by a real estate attorney who does taxes, or even a tax person. Figure out how, if you're going to be eligible to exclude $250,000 or $500,000 right off the top because of capital gains. If you lived in a property through the last 5 years, as an individual, you should be able to exclude $250,000 of the gain. And as a couple, it's $500,000. That's pretty good for most states. I realize in California, if you've been in your property for 10 years, that's not going to cover it. But now let's say you're looking at another $500,000 on top of that capital gain because you have $1 million in equity. There are things you can do. This is not the point of this video to discuss it, but the point of the video is to say, please talk to an expert who can help you with this. Even, realtors aren't allowed to talk about it. They're explicitly told not to, but they should. If you're a person with a gain, they should say you should be talking to an attorney or tax guy before you put your property on the market. If they're good. If they don't tell you that, they're bad realtors. They either don't know or they're just looking out for their own commissions and not your result. So my question for you is always ask your realtor. If you're talking to a realtor about selling your home, ask them if there's any tax issues and say, but are you really allowed to talk to me about that? Or should you refer me to someone? And then don't sign the listing agreement yet. For more information, like I said, you can just DM me or you can just type in on video call and I'll talk to you about your equity positions and your best strategies. As an attorney broker, I have lots of programs where you don't even have to pay me anything up front. I can work with you on selling your home and get paid only if it sells. So, I can do that. A lot of other attorneys or maybe even some tax guys will do that. But you might as well be informed. My name is John McConnin. UpsideDownRealEstate.com is my website dealing with selling in slower markets that are declining, or for people who are upside down. Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye.